stop! You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now! We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. The reunion disaster was one of those sunny Friday mornings where everything felt like it was in place. James, 34, had just dropped off their two kids, Emily and Max, at school and was sipping on his second cup of coffee while enjoying a brief peace before heading to work. His wife, Rachel, was buzzing around the kitchen, finishing packing her bag for the weekend. Rachel, 33, had been excited about her upcoming high school reunion for weeks. She talked about it constantly, reminiscing about old friends, funny stories, and how much fun it would be to see everyone again. James, being the easygoing guy he was, didn't think twice about it. "Are you sure you don't want to come, babe?" Rachel asked, zipping her suitcase. James grinned. "To a high school reunion? Of course not. I'm not getting trapped in a room full of people reliving their glory days. Besides, someone's got to hold down the fort while you go party with your nerdy friends." Rachel laughed, playfully swatting him with a dish towel. "They're not all nerdy, you know. Some of them are probably even cooler than us now." "Cooler than us?" James scoffed. "Impossible. We've got a minivan, 2 kids, and a mortgage. We're the coolest people I know." Rachel rolled her eyes but smiled. "All right, Mr. Cool. Don't burn down the house while I'm gone." "Don't worry," James said, pulling her into a hug. "I've got everything under control. Go have fun with your friends, and don't forget to text me if you need rescuing from awkward conversations." "I will," she promised, kissing him on the cheek. "Love you." "Love you too," James called after her as she grabbed her bag and headed out the door. For the rest of the day, James didn't think much of it. He took the kids to the park, ordered pizza for dinner, and settled into his routine. Rachel texted a few times, mostly updates about how the reunion was going and who she'd seen. Everything seemed perfectly normal. But normal, as James would soon learn, was about to take a nosedive. It was late Sunday afternoon when Rachel came home. James had just finished cleaning up after lunch when he heard her car pull into the driveway. He went to the door, expecting her to be in a good mood, full of stories about her weekend. Instead, she walked in with a forced smile and an air of tension that James couldn't quite place. "Hey, how was the weekend?" James asked, trying to read her expression. "It was good. Just exhausting," she said, avoiding his eyes. James chuckled. "Reunions will do that to you. So, who was there? Did anyone ask about me?" Rachel seemed to hesitate. Yeah, a few people. I told them you were being your usual hilarious self, keeping the kids in check." There was something off about her tone, but James brushed it off. Maybe she was just tired from the weekend. After all, it was normal to feel a little drained after 2 days of catching up with old friends. Little did he know, something much darker was lurking just below the surface. 2 weeks later, James noticed Rachel was acting even stranger. She was constantly checking her phone, and sometimes she'd glance at the screen and quickly hide it. At first, James chalked it up to work stress. Rachel's job could be demanding, but soon it became clear that something else was going on. One night, as they were sitting on the couch watching TV, her phone buzzed. She quickly grabbed it, her face tightening. James glanced over, curious, but she turned the screen away from him. "What's up?" he asked casually. "Nothing, just work stuff," she muttered, getting up from the couch and walking out of the room. James frowned. That was weird. Rachel never walked out during a show for something like a text. Then came the late-night phone calls. She'd step out of the room, lowering her voice to whispers, and return with a strained smile, claiming it was just a coworker who needed advice. James wasn't an idiot. He knew when something was up, but he didn't want to jump to conclusions without solid proof. Things took a bizarre turn when, one afternoon, James came home from work early to surprise the kids and Rachel with an impromptu family dinner. He pulled into the driveway and noticed an unfamiliar car parked out front. Nothing too unusual, maybe a delivery guy or something. But when he walked into the house, what he saw froze him in his tracks. Rachel was standing in the living room facing the front door, and in front of her stood a man James had never seen before. "Rachel?" James called out, his voice tight. Rachel jumped, her eyes widening in panic. The man turned around, and James felt his heart drop into his stomach. The guy was clearly younger, in his late 20s, and he looked like he'd just stepped out of a college frat party. "James," Rachel's voice was shaky. This is Matt. He was just leaving." Matt stood there, shifting awkwardly, but not before James noticed the smug grin tugging at the corner of his lips. It was like he enjoyed the tension in the room. "Really?" James said it, stepping forward, his voice calm but filled with controlled anger, because it looks like this guy wasn't planning on leaving anytime soon. Matt, being the brilliant conversationalist he was, chimed in with, "Dude, it's not what you think." James stared at him, eyebrows raised. "Oh, is that right? Because I think my wife's old friend is standing in my living room looking like he's about to audition for the role of worst mistake of the year." Rachel stepped between them, panic setting in. "James, I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen." James turned to her, his face hard. Didn't mean for what to happen, Rachel. You're going to have to fill me in here because from where I'm standing, things aren't looking too good. Matt, now thoroughly uncomfortable, mumbled, I think I should go. Oh, no, James said, stepping closer to him. You're not going anywhere until we have a little chat. James wasn't a violent man, but seeing this guy in his home, seeing the way Rachel's face twisted with guilt and fear, something snapped inside him. What are you doing here? James demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Matt, stammering now, said, met her at the reunion. James didn't even need him to finish. The pieces fell into place. He clenched his fists, his heart pounding in his chest. You slept with him, James said, his voice hollow. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. James, it was a mistake. I was drunk and I didn't know how to stop it. Didn't know how to stop it? James repeated, his voice rising. You could have stopped it by not inviting him into your bed in the first place. Rachel sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I swear it was just that one time and I've been trying to fix things, but he won't leave me alone. James turned to Matt, who looked like he wished the floor would open up and swallow him whole. And you, James said, stepping closer, his eyes locked on Matt's. You think it's okay to terrorize my wife? Show up at our home and act like this is some romantic comedy where the guy gets the girl in the end. Matt raised his hands defensively. Dude, I didn't mean for it to get this far. She didn't tell me she was married. Oh, right, so you're the victim in this? James scoffed. Well, let me make one thing clear, buddy. You're done here. Before Matt could say another word, James pulled back and slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed through the room, and Matt staggered back, clutching his cheek. Get out, James said, his voice cold, and don't you ever come near my family again. Matt scrambled for the door, not bothering to look back. Once he was gone, James stood there, breathing hard, his mind racing. Rachel approached him, her face streaked with tears. James, please don't leave. We can fix this. James shook his head. Fix this? Rachel, how do you fix something like this? You cheated on me. You betrayed our family. I didn't mean to, she whispered, her voice breaking. I was drunk, I wasn't thinking straight, and I know I've been distant, but I still love you. James let out a bitter laugh. Love? You call this love? Because if this is your idea of love, then I don't want any part of it. He walked past her, heading for the door. I'm filing for divorce, he said flatly. I'll come back for my things tomorrow. Rachel collapsed onto the couch sobbing, but James didn't look back. He couldn't. He had to get out of there before the weight of it all crushed him. Reader comments, wow, I can't even imagine how James felt walking in on that. His sense of humor through it all was brilliant, though, especially that slap. What a moment. Curious mind. Rachel doesn't deserve him. She not only cheated but lied to his face for weeks. Good on James for handling it with such class. Drama. This story is so intense, but also kind of hilarious at parts. The way James dealt with Matt, priceless. He deserved that slap and then some. Big Gaddy, it's sad to see marriages fall apart like this. I really feel for James, but hey, he walked out with his dignity intact, and that's something. Sweet Sarah, I love how this story balances the drama with humor. James is a character I'd love to read more about. Divorce might be tough, but I bet he'll come out stronger on the other side. Over it, Mom.